JBNN keep you informed. I'm Michelle Jones. Before we get into the news, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and to share the news with someone today. Now on to the news. Teacher found dead with throat slashed in St. Mary. The body of a 59-year-old teacher was discovered with her throat slashed at a St. Mary home Sunday morning. That is Angela Hamilton, a teacher of Pear Tree Grove Primary and Infant School in the parish. Reports indicate that Hamilton was last seen on Friday, leaving work around 4:30 p.m. When calls to Hamilton's cell phone went unanswered, friends and the family became concerned. Our friend then visited her home around 3 p.m. on Saturday, and after receiving no response, entered the house when she saw the front door was open. It is reported that she then found Hamilton's lifeless body lying on the floor with her throat slashed and a stab wound to her chest. The police were alerted and the body was removed from the scene. A motive for the killing is not yet known. However, the St. Mary Criminal Investigation Bureau is investigating. Police identified children who perished in Walker's Wood fire. The 3 young children who died in a fire in Walker's Wood sent on early Sunday morning have been identified. They are 2-year-old Tavarno Mates, 3-year-old Toshiwani Mates, and a 7-year-old Tashana Mates. According to reports, the 3 children were at home with their grandmother and a 4th child when the fire started. The 3 deceased children were in one room, while the 4th child was in a room with the grandparent. The woman reportedly saw fire coming from the room occupied by the 7-year-old and the 2 toddlers and raised an alarm. She managed to escape the fire. The child who was already in her room. While the grandmother was outside, an explosion was heard. Reports indicate that the house was engulfed in flames, and shortly thereafter, that section of the house collapsed. Units from the Jamaica Fire Brigade in Sentence Bay and Ocho later extinguished the blaze. The 3 bodies were removed and pronounced dead at the hospital. They are now awaiting post-mortem examinations. Minister of Education Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon expressed profound sorrow at the tragic incident.
The heartbreaking loss of these young lives is deeply distressing and serves as a painful reminder of the vulnerabilities children face in cases of emergency. The CPFSA first responders are already en route to the scene of the incident to assess the situation. They will provide on-spot grief counseling for the surviving family members, identify any other children who may now require care, and offer support such as food, clothing, and assistance in replacing essential documents. Our focus now is to ensure that these families have access to the resources they need to begin rebuilding their lives after this devastating loss. A team from the ministry will visit the children's schools tomorrow to offer counseling and emotional support to classmates, teachers, and other members of the school community as they grapple with this tragedy.
CPFSA's Chief Executive Officer, Laureate Adams Thomas, says that the agency made a swift response to the incident.
The CPFSA team quickly provided support to the grieving family by referring the child's mother and the surviving sibling to the Ministry of Justice's Victim Services Division for Trauma Counseling. We also referred the family to Food for the Poor to supply them with emergency provisions such as food as well as care items. You know, these tragedies are unimaginable losses that no family should have to endure. We implore you to be extra vigilant in the care of your children. Never leave them unsupervised or in situations where their safety may be at risk, especially at home.
An investigation into the incident has since been launched by the Ocho Criminal Investigations Branch, CIB. 2 motorcyclists killed in a head-on collision in Manchester. 2 motorcyclists died as a result of injuries they sustained in a head-on collision on the Bottom Main Road in Manchester Sunday morning. Police named the deceased as 31-year-old Anthony Cunningham, a resident of Bottom District, and the 22-year-old Paul Newman, a resident of Greenvale in Manchester. A police report said at about 1:38 a.m., 2 motorcyclists were heading in opposite directions when the motorcycles collided, resulting in the motorcyclists sustaining serious injuries. Both injured men were taken to the Mandeville Regional Hospital, where Cunningham was pronounced dead at 2:40 a.m. Newman succumbed 2 hours later at 4:55 a.m. Harry Douglas, former MP for St. Mary South East, has died. Former People's National Party (PNP) Member of Parliament for St. Mary South Eastern, Harry Douglas, has died. Douglas passed away on Saturday at the St. Joseph's Hospital in Kingston after a long illness. He was 83. Douglas served as St. Mary South Eastern MP from 1989 to 2007 when he retired from representational politics. During his political career, he also served as Minister of State in the Ministry of Water and Housing. A senior member of the PMP's executive body in St. Mary South East said the party is grateful for Douglas's contribution to the constituency and to the nation at large. Douglas is survived by his wife Denise and the children. Gun and ammo seized in St. James and the St. Andrew. Law enforcement officials in St. James and the St. Andrew carried out successful operations, recovering a gun and ammunition. In St. James, police seized a Glock 9mm pistol with an empty magazine during a search in gutters on Friday. According to reports, lawmen discovered the gun inside an abandoned car on the side of the road at approximately 7 a.m. No arrests were made. Meanwhile, on Saturday, officers attached to the St. Andrew Central Police Division recovered 25 shotgun cartridges during a targeted raid on Swallowfield Avenue, Kingston 5. Reports indicate that the stadium police found the cartridges on the roof of a dwelling house during the operation, which commenced around 6:15 a.m. There were no arrests. Man said found in Manchester identified as that of missing senior citizen. The police in Manchester do not suspect foul play in the death of a 74-year-old man whose decomposed head was found separated from his torso in bushes in Mansfield District, South Manchester on Saturday. Police say relatives identified the remains as that of Timothy Burton, a resident of Mansfield District who was reported missing on Christmas Day. Police had said Burton was last seen at home at about 8 p.m. wearing a red shirt, blue jeans, and a pair of black shoes. A police source said investigators believe Burton died as a result of misadventure. He wandered away. He has Alzheimer's, so he couldn't survive without a caregiver, but he still lived alone. He went missing from around Grand Market, said the source. The body was decomposed and dogs hauled it away. People saw bones and the dogs were messing with it. It is a death investigation. No foul play suspected, added the source. Seaward Drive community under siege. The community of Samakon on Seaward Drive in St. Andrews tends amid a wave of violence linked to a gang feud in the area. In the latest incident on Thursday afternoon, a popular soup vendor of the community, Krishna Meko, otherwise called Baba, was shot multiple times by gunmen. The 47-year-old soup vendor was reportedly at his stall about 1 p.m. when a motorcycle pulled up with masked men who opened fire, hitting the vendor several times in his upper body. He was rushed to hospital where he has been admitted in serious condition. On Friday, the streets of the community were vacant and the businesses shuttered. According to residents, some residents have vacated the area out of fear. Since Baba shooting, plenty of people leave because Baba is a working youth. Right now around 4 yards empty. Furniture and everything inside, but people just leave, the soup vendor's uncle, Noel Meko, said. He described his nephew, a father of two, as a hard-working man who has been operating his soap business in the community for more than 5 years. He's a mechanic, and him run him liquor shop, from can him fish, him boil him soup and not take no time for sell off. He's a working youth man. That's why you see the whole place there, so, because people surprised that Baba get shot, Noel shared. The people are in fear. I tell you, that is what is going on here. And the entire area is like family. Majority of the people here are family, he added. He said the community is not known for violent crimes. In this place, it never used to go on so. The community was the best community out of the whole place. Police officers talk about it, but then say after a storm, there must be a calm. Me happy say the JDF and the JCF working in here, Noel said. Michael's shooting followed the murder of 34-year-old Richard Anderson on Tuesday. Anderson, a laborer of the community, was fatally shot on Seaward Drive by unknown assailants. Head of the St. Andrew South Police, Acting Senior Superintendent Damian Manderson, said that the violence is linked to an ongoing dispute among members of the Samakon gang. The incident is part of a continuation of a series of incidents. Primarily, there's a group of men in the Samakon gang who have fallen out of grace, and as such, they have been tit for tats. It involves related members and those who are non-related, Manderson said. It spans as far as St. Thomas, where these families are originally from. The murders that St. Thomas experienced in recent weeks would have been a part of this same family. So it is part of what we've been trying to quell for the past 3 to 4 weeks, which is an upsurge in the intra-gang conflict in the Samakon area of Olympic Gardens, Manderson said. He said the police have identified key players in the feud and are asking them to turn themselves in. According to Manderson, those key players are Alex Madden, a former JCF member who resides on Kenton Avenue, a man known only as Bounty, Dean Sutherland, otherwise called Berkey, Dane White, otherwise called Jazzy, a man known only as Kimani, Mark Harris Sr., and a man known only as Black Star Bunup. We continue to impose our presence within that space. We are, of course, reassuring our residents of our continued support. We are currently in our second 48-hour curfew in the community and will remain there as long as it takes to restore order, Manderson said. Councillor Patrick Roberts of the People's National Party Mullines Division is urging residents to work with the police in bringing an end to the ongoing conflict in the community. The residents are the ones who have to come together to put a stop to it. It cannot be the police alone, because the police can only go by eyewitnesses' reports and the facts of what is causing the conflict and the difference. If that is the situation, how best can the community solve this? They're the ones that are being affected, especially the children, Roberts said. Acknowledging that residents may be fearful of sharing information due to internal conflict, Roberts urged them to use secure channels to share information with law enforcement officers. Many lives have already been lost, and if it is a situation to save lives, then it is worth it, the councillor said. Sometimes people make decisions that drastically change the course of their lives, but there is always a chance to bounce back. The Department of Correctional Services is on a mission to help those persons to rehabilitate and become better citizens in society. Let's hear how they're going about that.
The Department of Correctional Services (DCS) was formed in 1975 and plays a pivotal role in monitoring persons on parole and those serving custodial and non-custodial sentences. Their mission is to see to the security, rehabilitation, and reintegration of offenders as productive and law-abiding citizens. The Department of Correctional Services (DCS) was formed in 1975 and plays a pivotal role in monitoring persons on parole and those serving custodial and non-custodial sentences. Their mission is to see to the security, rehabilitation, and reintegration of offenders as productive and law-abiding citizens.
The institution tries to mirror society in general as best as possible, so that on the release of an inmate, the reintegration will be as seamless as is possible. Our first interaction with inmates are when the courts send them to us. In general, the courts send 3 different categories of inmates: convicted, awaiting trial, and those that have been convicted and have appealed their sentences. In regards to the convicted persons, we hold inmates start ranging from 30 days to multiple life sentences. When they are admitted, first thing we categorize them in those 3 categories. Then we go to security, whether they are of a high security, which if they escape would pose a danger to the society and to the public in general. Then we have just regular inmates who cannot be held in low security but has to stay in one of the maximums. We also have inmates who can be classified and sent to the medium securities, which are the farm institutions, Tamarind Farm and Richmond Farm. They concentrate on farming, but they still do other rehab activities.
Meanwhile, female inmates are held at the South Camp Adult Correctional Facility, where they serve the same range of sentences in the 3 categories. Females who will soon give birth are also held at that facility and have a nursery available to them.
After 6 months, a report is done and a family member or a friend who could be a guardian of that child, and if the report come back as those people being suitable guardians, the child is handed over to them. If there is no suitable guardian, the child will be placed in a children's home, and at the release of the mother, they can be reunited. If the mother is to be released in a short period, say up to when the child is 1 year old, the child will be allowed to stay with the mother.
Rehabilitation in our care is under the arms of many branches, which would comprise the probation arm, the chaplaincy, the rehab industry, and the rehab branch. Within the rehabilitation branch, we have teachers at all levels. It's mandatory for the children to go to school and to be in vocational areas, as well as to be exposed to sports and chaplaincy. We also engage them in sessions with our case managers.
In addition, there are trained custodial officers who help with not only security, but also operate as social workers.
This is the initial part in terms of doing rehabilitation, where we have to assess where our inmates are, not just on the custodial side to see how severe of a crime or if they are high risk, but we also look at where they are in their biopsychosocial, so we can know whether or not they are high, low, or medium risk.
The Department of Correctional Services also provides a myriad of academic opportunities for inmates at the CSEC and CAPE levels.
So we offer more than 13 areas when it comes on to CSEC, and when it comes on to the CAPE exam, we offer 2. Some of the offerings that we have at the CSEC level, we have principles of accounts, we have principles of business, maths, English, social studies, history, to name a few. At the CAPE, we only offer now mathematics and economics.
The department also offers vocational courses that extend beyond the theoretical aspects.
We have vocational areas such as barbering, and this is at both the adult and the juvenile level. We also have welding. We have projects where we do masonry, plumbing, painting, and of course, most of our maintenance are done not just by officers within the institution, but inmates as well.
An infirmary is also available to inmates who have difficulty taking care of themselves. Professionals who work in the regular infirmary assist them in their day-to-day activities.
We also have family days where inmates are allowed to interact with their children twice annually, where fathers and mothers, in the case of South Camp, are allowed to sit with their children, interact closely for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, because these events are a big deal for the children to see their parents. We also have a system where inmates are granted parole. There are a number of reports that goes into the parole. We have the report from the institution, which is done by the superintendent. There is the police report, and there is the community report. All of those are viewed by the parole board, and then a decision is made whether or not that person will be granted parole.
Oftentimes, person would hear the sad story, but it's time for us to look at the success, look at the positive, to see that our inmates and our wards in our care, they are doing exceptionally well. They want to make a change, and we're asking that society will also buy into that to allow them to have a smooth reintegration. Oftentimes, there is a stigma attached, but we ask that persons will give them that sense of hope to say anybody can change. The fact that they are making strides within, we hope that society can forgive and to have an open arm so they can execute that which we have taught them, that which they have engaged themselves in. We hope that society can help as well, that we can meet that vision for 2030.
Some people have endured traumatic experiences in their lives. Some may have overcome it, while others are a work in progress. Now, regardless of what the situation is, persons can always seek help. We'll share with you the Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice offers support.
The Victim Services Division provides support for all victims of crime. It does not matter the type of crime that has been committed against you, or doors are open to you.
Some of those victims are persons who've suffered sexual abuse, family members of people murdered, individuals who've experienced robbery and intimate partner violence, otherwise known as domestic abuse. They all can be grouped into one of 3 categories: primary, secondary, or tertiary victim. Who is a primary victim?
the person to whom the crime has been directly committed. Now, in the case where the primary victim is deceased, we will provide the service to their next of kin and their immediate family members, who in this case will be the secondary victims.
Secondary victims may not have had the act perpetrated on them, but they do experience some amount of trauma due to what their loved ones may have endured. Then there are the tertiary victims.
Victim service workers are categorized as tertiary victims. And so we think about persons like the police officers who have to interface with these situations on a day-to-day basis. There is secondary traumatization that they experience. And so it is critically important that persons not only recognize that these events can have an impact on them, be they primary, secondary, or tertiary victim, but also that they need to get assistance to be able to deal with the effects of the trauma that they have experienced.
Tertiary victims also suffer what's called vicarious trauma. This results in some form of distress caused from the horrific experiences of others.
For example, a mother who has a 9-year-old child and hears of the incident where a 9-year-old was brutally murdered. That person will feel some amount of trauma, some amount of fear even because of what has happened to that child when they think of the fact that they too have a 9-year-old child.
A department in the Ministry of Justice, the Victim Services Division, is determined to help.
We have come to recognize that even in the cases where there are physical wounds, when those have healed, the wounds that are created, the psychological wounds and the social injuries that are created are far harder to heal, especially if the person has received no intervention to deal with the trauma that they have faced.
The division provides a support system for individuals, including through counseling sessions which have been extended to e-counseling, an initiative that was boosted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a therapeutic process that is based on trauma-informed care to help individuals cope. Another is crisis intervention. This is where experts at the division may need to accompany police officers onto a scene to help victims understand what is happening. It's known as on-the-scene response.
Additionally, we provide services in terms of home visits. So we'll visit the homes of victims and provide services to them there, school visits, and that sort of thing in terms of crisis intervention.
Another part of the treatment focuses on informing the victims of their rights.
We try to assist them through the process, get in touch with the relevant persons to get information that they may need, to even understand the process of the investigation, what is happening, what will be happening, or what should happen.
Due to the unnerving experience of a trial and the added traumatization of the victims, the division also gives court support to help persons prepare for trial.
When a victim has to go to court, it can be a very frightening experience for both adults and children. So one of the ways in which we advocate, instead of having the victim being seated in the same area and being able to be seen by the perpetrator and they're seeing the perpetrator and they may feel fearful and not able to go through the process, we ask that they be seated in another area where they don't have to interface with this, or even where they don't have to interface where possible with the general public.
The Victim Services Division also provides a Children in Court program.
In terms of dealing with the children, some of the tools that we use, we may utilize a model courtroom that really depicts the courtroom setting and give them an idea as to where individuals may be seated, who they will interact with, who they can expect to interact with them, that sort of thing. In some instances, we're even able to bring the victim to the courthouse prior to the date so that they can basically see the lay of the land and get a better appreciation and understanding. So when they turn up on that day, it's not all brand new to them. And preparation for us, let me be clear, is really orientating them to the process. We do not interfere with statements. We do not interfere with whatever it is they will be going there to say. We are all about the court process, the layout of the court, and basically educating them as to what they can expect.
You do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to be afraid.
We operate on a principle of neutrality. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter what your story is. Our doors are open to you once you have become a victim of a crime.
JBN will keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.